Hello everyone, welcome to Cellopedia, this is Maxim. Have you ever been frustrated with working on a passage, no matter if it's just few notes in the first position or something all over the fingerboard, and spending hours and hours without seeing much of the progress? In this video, I will share with you a few very useful ideas about the way to break down a difficult task to several smaller ones. We will also talk about the ways to track your progress to help you ultimately not just achieve what you want, but to get as much confidence in yourself as possible. Let's tune and get to work. When you are learning a new piece or technique, it could be really overwhelming to approach your task as a whole. This is where breaking the complex task into smaller steps comes in. This approach not only helps you to stay focused, but allows you to make steady progress and feel a sense of accomplishment as you complete each step. I would like to show you how that works in real world. As an example, I will use the first movement from Breval Sonata in C major, opus 40. Just the first line. This opening of sonata sounds like a simple melody. However, it has so many difficult and different things to accomplish. It is a gorgeous opening. However, to learn it well, you will need to break it down to different techniques you will need to master before you can put it together. It seems to me that it would be very useful to break it to three parts. Chords, then a melody with legato, connecting notes and proper counting, and then the combination of a trill and grace notes. Each of those problems have to be solved separately. This way I would suggest to play a chords number of times, trying to adjust the timing, adjust the way you move from one string to another, and proper position of the left hand so those chords sound in tune. You noticed that I started to play it in slower tempo. When you play in slower tempo, you have more time to process all the information, and that helps you to make it right. Then, repeating it number of times will actually help you to improve the speed of processing of this information. And that will allow you to play faster without making any sacrifice to the quality. After you worked on the first two measures, you can continue with the next part. Playing this part, you will have to make sure that you count right, you play with proper bowings, and your left hand precision is steady, especially if you like to use some vibrato. After you check it with the metronome, you might notice that it's not that easy to play in any tempo you are trying to. That means that you need to play it several times with metronome to get used to steady tempo, and then you can try playing without metronome to see what you already achieved. And in the following measure, you have completely different challenge, the combination of trill and grace notes. Make sure you break it down to small fragments, just a trill. and then the trill and grace notes. You got confident doing it in a slower tempo. Of course, you can increase the speed of the trill. That means you could make more turns. But if it feels too difficult to play this trill faster, don't increase the tempo right away. Rather spend your time putting together all three different parts of this line. And then you will get something like this. By the way, if you're interested in learning this wonderful music, I have an Udemy course specifically designed for this sonata. On top of all other courses which are made for beginners and intermediate level cellists. Check them out on Udemy and you might find them useful, especially if you use the link I put in the description to this video and get a special discount. Practicing well is hard. You need to pay the attention to everything you are doing. Otherwise, this repetitive way of doing things in incorrect way will actually make it worse, and you will learn something wrong, and then it will be much harder to undo it later on. To avoid being bored with repetitive tasks, I would suggest you to be as creative as possible when you practice difficult passages. As an example, I will show you how I work on the difficult passage from the first movement of Lalo Cello Concerto, the passage you heard at the beginning of this video. Just playing it slower might not help, because you will have to use a lot of the bow and you just don't have enough of it. The very useful idea would be to change bowings, make it simpler. When you play one note per bow, you don't have to take care of the bow distribution and you can pay all the attention to your left hand. Then the next step would be to play with yet different bowings, say 2 notes per bow. Then you can change the tempo to play it somewhat faster, yet 1 note per bow. And I deliberately played just a little snippets of it, because that's how you get really immersed in that. That means all of your attention is channeled to those few notes you repeat. You start noticing that you are thinking about something else. Stop and try to reset your mind. This way your practicing time will be relatively short, but you feel you got tired just because you have to process so much information without being distracted. When you work on a long passage, you might want to switch from one part to another, because each of those parts might have somewhat different challenge. Even playing 1 note per bow, it's quite hard to place all those notes correctly. You might want to think, how can I simplify this measure to distill the most difficult parts of the technique which don't allow me to play it better? And I would just work on the shifts you have to make here, without all the notes around them. And after that, you add all the notes back, and most likely you will feel it's much easier for you to play. I wouldn't worry to learn it with incorrect bowings. It might be a bit confusing at first, but once you train yourself to pay attention to very specific part of the passage, to the way your left hand works, then to the way your right hand works. Soon you will be very comfortable putting all those parts together, and that will allow you to play with consistent quality all the time you need it. I would like to address another problem with practicing, the sense of frustration. You put time into that, and you do everything right. You are not allowing your mind to wander. You pay attention to everything. You write down extra bowings, fingerings, work on different parts of the technique at different time, yet you don't seem to make much of improvement. Very often, it's not actually what is happening. We all tend to get used to positive things which are happening to us. We take them for granted. And most of us, we pay attention only to misfortunes, to mistakes we are making. One of the ways to have clarity about your progress is if you can make a recording of yourself playing at the beginning of your work on the piece you are working on. You don't have to share that recording with anyone. Just make sure that you have it, and few days or weeks after you started working on this certain passage, play it to yourself. And most likely you will be just amazed how much better you play now. It works the same way when we listen our recordings made a few years ago. And often we are smiling. What used to be extremely difficult for us seems to be so easy now. And this is the sign of the progress. This must be very important part of your practicing, realizing how much of progress you are making. I hope that those ideas will make your practicing more enjoyable and productive. Come back to Cellopedia for more cello videos. I hope to see you soon.